And the recording started. Here we go. I'm with Aaron Leask, one of our best auctioneers in the country. Aaron, how
Thanks,
are
Jez. That's quite an intro. Quite a plug.
you? Aaron, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who's Aaron Leask and what's your journey so far?
Yeah, been in real estate 20 years.
Wow.
And I've worked for a number of different agencies in the northwest of Melbourne.
Yep.
I've owned businesses. I've ran businesses. And I currently run Leask Property Group, which is a real estate services business, really, that does vendor advocacy. We do a bit of buyer advocacy. We auction, obviously.
Correct. Yes, we do a lot of auctions. Yes.
And some real estate recruitment and consultancy.
Yes.
So we do a lot of little different things within the real estate industry.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yeah. Well, that's a lot that you're doing at the moment. I'm pretty sure, because we know even in sales, we sometimes try to pull our hair apart.
Yes. That's right.
Too many hats. Aaron's going to talk today about, and I find it really interesting, and it's going to add a lot of value if you guys are looking at perhaps getting ready to bid at the auction or perhaps planning to attend an auction. Yeah. Aaron, what's your tip for a buyer?
There's a couple of really key points that it's worth going over today. I thought it was good that we brought this up and we can record it and share it with our buyers out there in our market. That a lot of we tend to forget working in the industry. There's a lot of buyers really don't get the opportunity to do this often in their life. Like if they're lucky, they might buy 2 or 3 homes, maybe 3. Probably 1 or 2 is really
on an average.
On an average, and they're really only going to, I'd say, maybe a half a dozen properties and bidding on them.
Correct.
So they don't have the practice to be successful. And there's a lot of hesitation, trepidation about auction day for a buyer. They don't know what they should do. They don't know where they should start the bidding. They don't know how to do it. Then obviously there's a trust element that comes with that. That they have with the agent. Is the agent telling me the truth about feedback and buyers' interest, etc., etc. So I thought it'd be pertinent today to go over what I would do and how I would approach it. The first thing I would do would be, if you haven't been to an auction, go and watch an auction. There's plenty around in Melbourne in your suburb every Saturday.
Correct.
Go and watch a couple. Just stand around and observe.
Yeah.
Get comfortable with the process. And every auctioneer is different. They'll start it differently. They'll end it differently. They'll have different speed. As to how they communicate to the buyers. But watching a couple of auctions, or at least 3 or 4, and get comfortable. Then the second point to that would be, after you've identified a property that you're interested in, if it happens to be going to auction, I would be getting to the auction usually a little bit earlier.
Gotcha.
And go through the property one last time, and then get your spot, get your position.
Yes, that's really critical.
Position where, and even to the point where I would ask, and I've had to go and bid for different clients over the years for auctions for them, and I've always asked the auctioneer, where are you going to be standing?
Yeah.
And figuring out where their line of sight is going to be. So I don't want to be too wide.
Yes.
I don't want to be behind them, definitely.
Correct.
There's a lot of buyer advocates that like to stand behind
the auctioneer,
and it's a bit of a power play. But really, if a hand goes up, I want to be able to see it.
Correct.
Within my line of vision.
Exactly.
Not in my peripheral, but sort of in that sort of V corridor there.
Exactly.
So that would be the first thing. The third thing. The fourth thing, I think, knowing your limit.
Exactly.
And this has to be determined. This is a business decision. This isn't something that we work off emotion. You'll try not to work off emotion.
Correct.
It's a business decision going into an auction, knowing where you're going to start, where you're going to stop. And you got to have those numbers, similar to what we advise our vendors. They've got to have their numbers ready on Saturday. The buyer has to have their numbers ready.
Right.
And then from there, it's up to them how far they want to go.
Correct.
Because we all know that you go another 5, you might get it.
Exactly.
Another 10, you might get it. But you've got to have that decision made that, okay, this is the absolute limit I'm going to go. If it goes $1 over, I'm out.
Exactly.
And then when you've got clarity of number, you can then very consciously make those bids with confidence and assurity, rather than, oh, geez, quick, do the numbers, honey. Where are we at with?
We're at 866. Calling the broker.
Yeah, let's call the broker. Broker's not going to answer.
Exactly.
You've got probably 30 seconds before the auctioneer counts it down 3 times. You can't afford to waste that time trying to dial a number.
I'll tell you a story about 30 Downfield Drive, the auction we did the other day. the purchasers who were calling the broker called me 2 hours after the auction. And I was going home after the open homes and auctions. It was, I think, about 5:30, 6 o'clock. They said, is there any chance if we offer more, can the vendor accept our offer? And I said, we were trying to extend the auction. We were trying to push hard, and we were trying to sort of delay the auction because you were making a phone call to your broker. And the broker was like, yeah, go if you have to, but I really don't know. And the broker did not give the right advice at that point.
Yeah.
So they were not prepared, even though they had 4 weeks time to prepare themselves.
Yeah.
And eventually realized they actually could have paid another 10, 15,000.
Yeah.
So they missed out. Of course, it's a lost opportunity for the buyer. And one thing I say to the buyers as well, like you said, find your position, because if I'm a bidder, I'll tell you my story. I attended an auction myself. It was an online auction.
All right.
Non-lock, not in COVID. Not in COVID. There was an auction in Point Cook. I attended, and I played the power role. There was a power play from my side. From my side, jumped in straight, asked a few questions about the property, and
Right.
Online bidding, mate. You gave me the control straight away.
Yeah, and I guess that's a tactic that you see a lot.
Yeah.
Can be disruptive, but look, if you're educated and you're experienced, that sort of thing isn't going to necessarily throw a buyer off the scent. But we do see that every now and then. Some buyers throwing questions, and that's really not for the auctioneer to answer. It's more the agents to deal with, and the auction continues on. So that's how we run it. So if you're out there, buyers wanting to ask questions, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Just ask the agents.
Depends on the auctioneer.
Yeah. But the last thing would be, how do you bid? And I've often had a lot of different advice over the years about how to bid at an auction. Some say wait till it's on the market.
Oh yeah.
Some say, look, start, then jump out, then come back in.
Correct.
My view is you don't want to get too cute with this.
Correct.
And every time I've bid for clients to buy at auction, I also really respect this method when I see it at my auctions, that you're there to bid, you've turned up, you've been through the house 3 times.
Correct.
It's a Saturday. I'm sure there's other things you'd rather be doing.
Exactly.
But you're there for a reason.
Correct.
So let's get down to it. And the quick bid, I've found, not only is it direct and it puts you in the driver's seat.
Correct.
But it also tends to throw, if we backstep a couple of steps and we say, okay, what's figuring out what your numbers are before you bid. You know your numbers, you can bid quickly.
Correct.
And then you can bid quickly, you can then throw the others off, because the others are probably not quite as,
exactly
resourced and prepared as you are. So a quick bid to start, 700. The minute someone else bids, what I would do,
jump in
straight back in, number 10.
Yeah.
Don't even let the auctioneer come out for breath when he's saying 7, 10, 20.
Yeah, exactly.
And then straight away, and get to what I'm getting at is getting to your limit, or you're buying the property as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It's a bit like bang, 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 bang. Well, what just happened?
Correct. Exactly.
A lot of the other competition will be, hang on, what just happened? That was quick. And then they get a little bit, pressure. So if I'm there to buy.
Exactly.
I'm bidding quickly and fast.
Correct.
That's not a bad thing.
Correct.
Because you get to your limit quickly. You know either you're going to buy the property
or you're missing out. Correct. Or then you can start throwing your spare change.
That's right.
At the end. I remember it takes me back in 2019, where this purchaser was quite an experienced buyer. He was a car dealer.
Okay.
And he's got a car yard in Melbourne, in the neighborhood, and he buys a lot of cars at auction, right? And the property was for his family member.
Right.
And there was no way he was letting it go, because he loved that family member a lot. Was one of the siblings. So right at the end, we had 2 bidders, and his body language told the other party he's here for serious business. He walked out of the crowd, stood right in front of the auctioneer, turned around to the buyer and said, all right, let's do this now.
Right.
Because when we were on the market at that point,
Yeah.
The buyer said 1. He goes 10 grand. He goes, you got more? That buyer didn't bid at all.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He got the property.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's worked for him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that again is not even borderlining the disruptive conduct. He's just telling the other bidder to let's go.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that you got to be careful too. There's got to be some respect
To the other
given
parties.
to the other parties. So I think that's something that we also need to stress.
Correct.
But there's nothing wrong with being assertive.
Yeah.
With your bidding. Nothing wrong with being, and I think speed definitely would help you secure the property in that vein. But
it's like playing the sport, playing a game, and be respectful for other team members.
That's right. And the umpire's decision.
Exactly. If the umpire is knocking back a bid. So bid strong.
That's right.
Bid strong. Guys, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, please reach out, put in the comments section, or perhaps send us an email. Phone numbers will be listed in the comment section as well. Feel free to reach out if you're planning to bid, not at our auction. If you're just going and bid it, you're planning to bid at another auction and for another agency, or perhaps you're helping a friend, just reach out. Love to help and love to answer any of your questions. Thank you so much, Aaron. Really appreciate your time as well.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.